Hello everybody, it's me, your good friend Sparky, and welcome back to Kirby's Dream Land / Spring Breeze, where we take a look at not only the very first Ultimate Classic Kirby game for the Game Boy, but also what is essentially its remake from the Kirby Super Star game. The Spring Breeze game mode that you could play, and more or less completely redid Kirby's Dream Land in 16 bits. Though not completely, because there are differences between the two versions. And, we'll actually be seeing probably some of the biggest differences between both versions in this particular mini-sode of this little mini-project that I wanted to put together. Starting off, we're actually going to be playing 2 Kirby's Dream Land levels instead of just one, for a particular reason that I will get to once we get to the Kirby Super Star portion of our program. And we're starting things off by raiding Castle Lololo, and speaking of, there's Lololo himself, in a little bit of a mini boss encounter, coming out of doorways, throwing blocks at us, because he's cameoing from the game Adventures of Lolo, which was all about pushing blocks everywhere. A little puzzle adventure sort of game, also from HAL Laboratory, the creators of Kirby. Though, I guess this is Lololo and not Lolo, because Lolo is definitely the hero of his series, while Lololo is most definitely a bad guy. At least in this game, I forget how many other games he's actually in. But it's part of the uniqueness of Kirby's Dream Land. And speaking of unique things, we have the super spicy curry, which Kirby eats, and then he has to get cool off his mouth somehow by spitting fireballs and frantically running in place. It's sort of what was in this game in place of abilities that would come later, the copy abilities specifically. We actually saw another item like that right towards the beginning of level, which was the microphone, which lets you yell into it and clear out all of the enemies on screen. And that would eventually become the mic copy ability in various other Kirby games. And the Super Spicy Curry, you could say, would eventually become something like one of the fire-based abilities that Kirby is most definitely known for in many of his other games. But enough about that, I suppose, because we're up to the second boss already. Lololo is back, and he's brought with him Lalala. And again, they are going about and throwing blocks at you, because that's what they are all about. So we just kind of have to avoid them, grab the blocks, and jump between the platforms in order to get around behind them, or, well, in front of them, and spit the blocks back out at them. There goes Lalala, leaving Lololo all by his lonesome, and kind of easy pickings, since there's much less to avoid. The only really tricky thing you have to pay attention to while you're doing this is that the controls for dropping down the through platforms between levels is also the same controls as swallowing whatever is in Kirby's mouth. So it can be pretty easy to accidentally swallow your ammunition instead of spitting it out at the boss. So you just gotta pay attention to that. And just like that, level 2 is done. Dancing. And yeah, instead of moving on to Kirby Superstar, we're going to be moving right onto Stage 3, the Float Islands. Sort of the water level, I guess you could say, of Kirby's Dream Land. But you don't really spend too much time in the water. Or, like, at all, if you don't really have to be in the water. For the most part, you can just kind of fly through the level unopposed. There's lots of things around shooting, like, laser beams and cannons and stuff at you. Cannonballs, rather. It's not shooting cannons, it's a cannon shooting stuff at you. And, yeah, just kind of a nice island level. With squids that can fly. for some reason. And hey, there's another microphone. Where Kirby's singing voice is so bad, it literally kills everything around him. Pretty brutal, honestly. I don't know if that's just part of Kirby's amazing superpowers, or if his singing voice is actually that bad. And honestly, on the Float Islands, you also spend a lot of time in kind of a cave section instead of an island section, which is fine, I suppose. Though, navigating around can be a little difficult when there are spikes about. And for some reason here, I forgot that I can spit things out of Kirby's mouth, and instead kept ducking through the platform and accidentally falling into spikes and things. And, there's my first life lost. Not bad for getting through 2 whole stages without losing a life, but, you know, you just gotta pay attention to your life counter, because 1-ups are not terribly common. They're a bit difficult to get a hold of. But at the same time, this game is honestly rather forgiving when it comes to, like, your lives and difficulty and continuing from game overs and things like that. There's not too much you really have to, worry about. Because Kirby games in general are always just kind of those fun little romps, honestly. They're not meant to be super difficult unless you're, you know, like playing later Kirby games and going for like absolute completion, which is like the only way to get anything done in a Kirby game. If you want to be a true Kirby master, you do have to get all of the things in many later Kirby games. And hey, more super spicy curry, heck yeah. Just spitting out fireballs, hopping around, trying not to get shot out of the sky. Though, a bit of an interesting detail, very good attention to detail. If you jump into the water while you're using super spicy curry, it actually cancels out the super spicy curry. Which makes sense. You take a big gulp of cool water after you eat some spicy food, and it tends to help. Though I've heard that drinking a glass of milk actually helps out more. And Kirby takes off to what is going to be another fun scene. Falling into a whale blowhole. Even though it was the very first Kirby game, it still had a lot of that, like, very silly Kirby charm that people would come to expect. And here's another power-up, the Mint Leaf, which lets Kirby shoot out a flurry of air puffs out of his mouth. Like, infinitely, more or less. And we're using it to take on the third boss of the game, Kabula. Definitely a more unique boss when considering Kirby bosses. And, well, that's all done. With the Kirby's Dreamland portion of things done, we can move on to Kirby Super Star, and we can get into why there's like the biggest difference in the game. One of the biggest differences between the game versions. Because there is no Castle Lololo stage in Kirby Super Star. You just go right to the Float Islands. But then again, it's not that Castle Lololo and its content was like completely removed from the game. It's more like the 2 stages were sort of merged together. You go to the Float Islands, and you venture around the little island settings, and through the caves and all that. You go into the little hidden areas and get 1-ups and things like that. Avoid coconuts falling from the sky. So, it's most definitely very similar to Float Islands in general, as far as like stage design is considered. And also, there's Kirby Super Star's rather nasty habit of attacking you right out of transitioning between areas. But we got an invincibility candy, and there goes Mr. Frosty. Bye. Yeah. That's just a bit of a silly addition to this game. The invincibility candy is in Kirby's Dreamland, I think, but I've never, like, found it. And, speaking of things that are, I guess, kind of unexpected, like crashing into Mr. Frosty, we've got Lololo and Lalala. Instead of fighting Kabula at the end of the Float Islands, you fight them instead. So, yeah, it's more like they merged the two stages together. They took the third stage and gave it the second stage boss, instead of having their weird dogfight in the air with the mint leaf. But, I mean, that's about it. That's all for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. This is your good friend Sparky signing off for now.